The day was 29 March, year of our Lord, 1996. The date of the first Super League game. The English-based visitors, the Sheffield Eagles, lined up to receive the kick. The crowd was an impressive 17,873, and the atmosphere felt more like a grand final than a season opener. The team kicking off, the home team, who were they? Wigan, St. Helens, London? It was Paris. Yeah, that Paris, in France. A city that before 1996 never had a professional rugby league team, and after 1997 hasn't hosted a professional rugby league match since. The 17,873 Parisian not-so-faithful entered Charletti Stadium with free tickets and an open mind. The president of this Parisian team described the moment, saying, 98% of them were new to the game, but they understood it right away. They saw tries, lots of commitment, and lots of movement. They saw beauty. They attended a great party. The team kicking off? It was Paris Saint-Germain, or PSG. Yeah, that PSG. The same as the soccer team with the cool Eiffel Tower logo in the middle. But how did we get to this point, and whatever happened to PSG Rugby League? And what lasting effect did it leave on European Rugby League? Let's go back to the very beginning, before Super League started. In a way, it started with Rupert Murdoch. He was a tour de force in the 90s, and his News Corporation was taking over Rugby League as fans knew it. He had hoped to gain control not only of Rugby League in Australia, but England as well. His takeover of both Rugby League bastions nearly fait accompli. He turned his attention to famed rugby union star Jacques Fureau. Jacques Fureau was a hero in France for his efforts with the 15-man version of rugby. He famously captained the French national team during their Grand Slam victory of the then Five Nations tournament, beating England, Wales, Ireland, and Scotland. As manager of the French national team, he repeated this feat 2 more times in '81 and '87. It was kind of a big deal. Initially, Fureau hoped to start a fully professional 12-team domestic French rugby league competition with teams in Toulouse, Perpignan, Paris, and other cities. That plan being unfeasible, Fureau salvaged his plan by incorporating just one team into the English Super League. He chose Paris as the city that had the most potential for growth. This French connection would elevate this rugby league competition from a solely English competition. In fact, many commentators refer to this competition as the European Super League when it started, with London and Paris being the only teams outside the M62 traditional Northern English heartlands. Rugby league was in renaissance. While Australia had 2 rival leagues battling for professional superiority, England was in the midst of completely changing its cultural identity. Along with the inclusion of London and Paris, Super League changed rugby league in England from a winter to a summer sport. The French-based semi-professional league, also in Europe, however, did not follow suit and remained a winter sport. The 1996 PSG team was made up of players from the semi-professional Championnat de France de Rugby à 13 in France. These were mostly French players, but also included Australian, English players, and even a player from Poland and Romania. While it seemed like a good idea to have players from this league who represented the French spirit, most of them had been playing semi-pro rugby league in France as a winter sport since September of 1995, when the Super League started its season in late March, so there was basically no off-season for them. But that's not the hard part, it gets even worse. They kept playing for both leagues, Super League and the French League, for 2 months while the seasons were overlapped. Most played around 50 games in 1996 alone. As scrum half Fabien Devecchi recalled, "It was crazy to think we could go into a competition like Super League without actually preparing for it properly. We lived in hotels for a few days, and then played, and then went back to the south of France. It wasn't easy. Exciting, but not easy. Preparing for a game from a hotel room is almost impossible." Australian standoff Todd Brown remembered, "The French competition started in September and finished at the end of March. We played the French Championship final on the Saturday and then about 10 of us went back on Monday to play Castleford.
Taz, they've got to sort it out over here. You cannot have players playing the domestic competition through the first 11 rounds almost of the Super League. It's got to be Super League from here on in.
Eddie, next year we've amended already the format of the competition, and next year there'll be no transition period. It'll be straight into Super League for the Super League players. So that's all been ironed out with the French Rugby League. And as we saw tonight, I mean, it's no point winning the second half if you can't win the first half. So it is a learning curve for us all, and hopefully we'll be better next week.
The first game was a success, with a party atmosphere in the air. It wasn't just rugby league, it was fireworks, local bands, and free tickets provided to the home supporters. And no one expected them to win, but yet they did. They won 30-24. This victory was not only a victory for PSG, but French Rugby League, and the entire Super League as a whole. The team's best player was Kiwi Darren Adams, a star in the French 15 competition for Racing 92. Unlike most other players, he was not playing parallel games in the French league. But even Darren Adams couldn't help offset the fact that most PSG rugby footballers were playing twice a week. For their fifth game, they beat bottom-of-the-barrel Workington Town to a home crowd of around 6,000. After a loss to Warrington, they lost to Wigan with a score of 8-76, and then lost big again to Leeds at home with a score of 14-40. The crowd for that game against Leeds totaled an impressive 15,000. That was the last big crowd the team would draw in 1996. Their grip on the Super League ladder started to slip. They started a free fall of 11 straight losses in a row. With the French season ended and with John Keir as newly hired club director, he had a clear objective: avoid relegation at all costs. They eventually ended the season with 3 wins, a tie, and 18 losses, which was 2 points the better of Workington Town, who would be relegated in 1996. With PSG in clear decline, Jacques Fourreau resigned from his role, leaving the club in uncertain circumstances for the 1997 season. However down the team was, they never gave up on games. Tired, bruised, and jet-lagged, they still fought until the last hooter of every game. But was Jacques Fourreau gone? Would the team's spirit be gone with it? Would they lose their unique Frenchness? How would they survive another year and keep the European Super League as an authentic European competition?
Well, they're saying au revoir and good night, and I think that, although my French isn't of the O or A level standard, I think that's thanks for coming, isn't it?